You're staring at your phone screen. There's a paragraph you've typed, deleted, and rewritten 5 times now. You're explaining yourself. Again. Trying to justify a decision you already made to someone who replied 3 hours ago with "sure, whatever you say." You know they didn't believe you the first time. You know they won't believe you now. But you keep typing anyway. Here's what that urge is really about. You're fighting a battle that was already lost before you even showed up. The exhaustion you feel after these conversations isn't just about wasted time. It runs deeper than that. Every time you over-explain yourself to someone who's already made up their mind, you're not actually trying to change what they think. You're trying to change how you feel about what they think. That distinction matters. You tell yourself you're clarifying, setting the record straight, making sure they understand your side. But what you're really doing is asking for permission. Permission to feel okay about your choice. Permission to not be the villain in their story. And the problem is this: you already know they're not giving it. The real weight comes from the gap between what you're doing and what you believe about yourself. You say you don't need their approval, but then you spend an hour crafting the perfect explanation. You say their opinion doesn't matter, but then you replay the conversation in your head for the next 2 days. That gap creates a kind of internal friction. It wears you down faster than the disagreement itself ever could. And here's the part nobody talks about. The more you explain, the weaker your position looks. Not because your reasoning is flawed, but because the act of defending yourself to someone who isn't asking questions signals that you're uncertain. They can feel it. You can feel it. Each additional paragraph becomes evidence that maybe, just maybe, you're not as sure as you want to be. So you keep going, trying to convince yourself as much as them. And with every word, you hand over a little more of your power. There's a concept in psychology that explains exactly why this never works. It's called cognitive dissonance, and it was first studied in depth by psychologist Festinger in the 1950s. The basic idea is this: once someone forms a belief, their brain works hard to protect that belief, even when they encounter contradicting evidence. This isn't a conscious choice. It's automatic. When new information challenges what someone already thinks about you, their mind doesn't update the belief. It filters the information. They downplay it, reinterpret it, find reasons it doesn't count. Because changing a belief requires admitting they were wrong, and that creates psychological discomfort. Most people will do almost anything to avoid that discomfort. So when someone has already decided you're unreliable, or selfish, or making a mistake, your explanation doesn't land the way you think it will. They're not listening with an open mind. They're listening through the lens of what they've already concluded. Every point you make gets bent to fit their narrative. If you're calm, you're cold. If you're detailed, you're defensive. If you're brief, you're hiding something. The conclusion was already written. You're just giving them more material to support it. And here's where it gets worse. Festinger's research showed that the more effort someone puts into holding a belief, the more committed to it they become, which means your long, carefully worded explanation doesn't weaken their stance. It strengthens it, because now they've spent energy arguing with you, and their brain needs to justify that energy. So they dig in. They get more certain, not less. This is why you feel crazy after these conversations. You brought receipts. You were clear. You stayed respectful. And somehow, you ended up feeling like the unreasonable one. That's not an accident. That's cognitive dissonance at work. They need you to be wrong so they can be right. And no amount of explaining will change that, because the problem was never about a lack of information. It was about a need to protect their worldview. Let's talk about what you're actually doing when you explain yourself to someone who isn't listening. You're performing. Not for them, for yourself. You're trying to prove that you're a reasonable person who makes thoughtful choices. Because if you can just say it clearly enough, maybe you'll believe it too. But here's the thing about performances. They require an audience that's willing to watch. And when someone has already walked out of the theater, you're just rehearsing lines to empty seats. The effort is real, the exhaustion is real, but the impact is zero. Think about the last time this happened. Not the specifics of the argument, but the feeling in your chest while you were typing or talking. That tightness, that urgency, that wasn't confidence. That was fear. Fear that silence means agreement with their version of you. Fear that if you don't defend yourself, their story becomes the truth. So you explain, and explain, and explain, hoping that if you say enough, the right combination of words will finally click. But it never does. Because they're not confused. They've just chosen a different story. And no monologue, no matter how articulate, can compete with a conclusion someone needs to believe. The performance of justification always costs more than it pays. You can be right and still lose. Here's a truth that's hard to swallow. The people who care about understanding you don't need a dissertation. They ask questions. They give you the benefit of the doubt. They say, "That doesn't sound like you. What happened?" They leave room for nuance. And when you explain, they actually update their perspective. Those people exist. You've met them. And with them, clarity takes minutes, not days. Because understanding was the goal from the start. Everyone else, they're not looking for clarity. They're looking for confirmation. Confirmation that their gut reaction was correct. Confirmation that they're the reasonable one. Confirmation that you are exactly who they decided you were the moment they felt disappointed or threatened or inconvenienced. You can't give someone understanding if they didn't come looking for it. And the hard part is recognizing the difference early, before you've spent hours crafting the perfect response, before you've lost sleep running through hypothetical rebuttals, before you've drained yourself trying to turn a closed door into an open one. The people who want to understand you already do. The ones who don't never will. And your energy is worth more than the space between those two groups. Spend it on the people who are actually listening. One of the biggest lies you've been sold is that if you don't defend yourself, people will believe the worst. So you speak up. You correct the record. You make sure your side is heard. Because silence feels like surrender. But silence isn't agreement. It's boundary setting. It's choosing not to participate in a conversation that was never designed for resolution. It's saying, without words, "I don't need you to approve of me to know I made the right choice." That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. When you stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening, you're not letting them win. You're refusing to play a rigged game. Because the truth is, their opinion of you is none of your business. It lives in their head, shaped by their wounds and biases and fears. You can't control it. You can't fix it. And trying to do so only gives it power it doesn't deserve. Silence also does something else. It forces people to sit with their assumptions without your participation. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that's what creates the space for them to question their own narrative. Not because you argued, but because you didn't. You walked away. And in doing so, you made it clear, their version of you is not your responsibility to manage. Let them think what they want. Your peace is more valuable than their approval. Every time you explain yourself to someone who's already made up their mind, you pay a price. It's not always obvious at first, but it adds up. You lose time. You lose energy. And worst of all, you lose a little bit of trust in yourself. Because deep down, you start to wonder, if I really believed I was right, would I need to defend it this much? The cost of convincing people who don't want to be convinced is always higher than the cost of letting them be wrong. So what do you actually do the next time this happens? When someone misunderstands you and every part of you wants to set the record straight. First, pause. Before you type the paragraph. Before you rehearse the conversation. Ask yourself one question. Is this person asking to understand, or are they telling me who I am? If they're asking, answer. Keep it simple. One explanation, clear and calm. Then stop. Don't chase clarity. If they want more, they'll ask. If they're telling you who you are, let them. Don't argue with someone's fictional version of you. It's not your job to rewrite their script. Say nothing, or say, "I hear you," and move on. Not because you agree, but because you refuse to audition for a role you didn't ask for. Second, practice this sentence, "I'm comfortable with my decision," out loud, to yourself, in the mirror if you have to. Because the goal isn't to make them comfortable. It's to remind yourself that you don't need their validation to move forward. And third, redirect the energy. Every minute you would have spent explaining is a minute you can spend doing literally anything else. Text someone who actually gets you. Go for a walk. Work on something that matters. Let your actions reflect your values louder than your words ever could. You don't owe people an explanation just because they demand one. You owe yourself the dignity of not shrinking to fit their assumptions. Go back to that phone screen, the message you rewrote 5 times. Imagine deleting it, all of it. Imagine typing 2 words instead. Sounds good. And then putting the phone down, not out of spite, not out of defeat, but out of clarity. Because you finally realized that the person on the other end already decided what they believe. And your job isn't to change their mind. It's to protect your peace. To stop offering explanations to people who were never asking questions. To let go of the need to be understood by people who chose misunderstanding the moment it suited them. You are not required to defend yourself to everyone who misinterprets you. Some people will get it, some won't. And both of those things can be true while you keep moving forward. Stop explaining yourself to people who already decided not to listen. Your energy is worth more than that.